My friends, good day. This book, The Great Betrayals, is exploding on Amazon. I would like to tell you why I had to write this book, why I had the sad task of writing it. Let me just give you a few examples of betrayals. Actually, it's not just betrayals. Actually, it's high time Westerners realize that their states have declared war on them. It's true that it sounds very subversive when you put it like that. It's true that if it's the first time you hear it, you might be a bit skeptical, but that's what it comes down to. If you don't like that word, you can always change it for something else. But the reality is, the elites of Western countries have decided to destroy them on every level. Let me tell you a little story. When Princess Diana died in Paris, you remember that story? It was roughly in 1997. She was married. She was the wife of Charles, who is the king today. And actually, they had divorced and all that. She was in France, and then, well, she died in an accident. Well, a little accident, you know what I mean. Under the Armour Bridge, they hit the 13th pillar, and that was it, fatal. There was an image that went around the world where you could see British soldiers carrying the coffin. When she was brought back, when her husband and children went to retrieve the body, they brought her back. So from Paris to London, and then when the plane landed, she was transported. The coffin covered with the royal family's flag was carried by soldiers. And they had to choose, right? Hand-picked soldiers for this important task, both honorific and, if you like, ceremonial NC. Well, we learned that about 2 years ago, one of those soldiers who carried the coffin died homeless, having frozen to death. In fact, he was abandoned by the administration, he was abandoned by the army, he was abandoned by everyone. And so there you have it. He fought in several wars, post-traumatic stress, alcoholism, you name it, but above all, abandonment. It means that what he went through was terrible, but being betrayed, being abandoned like that, well, that was ultimately what cost him his life. If you look, the United Kingdom pays 7 million euros per day, not per week or per month, per day, for hotel rooms for migrants. Just today, starting from 4 a.m., people who observe maritime traffic in the English Channel saw the Navy of His Gracious Majesty. By the way, they even say gracious for Charles, right? One day I might tell you about the British national anthem, which we call the national anthem, but it's not actually one. In any case, starting from 4 a.m., the British Navy, together with the French Navy, well, they started a whole shuttle operation moving migrants to the United Kingdom. These migrants are immediately housed in hotels, they are picked up on the beaches, and they go straight to hotels. By the way, the state keeps several hundred hotel rooms empty, just to have some leeway, just in case it's needed, which means they always take what they need. And they add a few hundred rooms that stay empty all year round, just in case, so we don't take the risk that a homeless person or a migrant ends up on the street. It's not like those soldiers who go to fight. It's not like those soldiers who carry the royal family's coffins and all that, who are absolutely worthless. Do you see the level of betrayal? Do you see why I'm shouting about this book? I'll give you another example still on the same topic. And in this book, I talk about France, I talk about Germany, I talk about the United Kingdom. And there you have it. These are extremely sad situations, but we have to talk about them because a betrayal at this level is no longer an accident. It's no longer just something done inadvertently. We're dealing with a conscious and coordinated action against the people. I'll give you another example. Between 2003 and roughly 2009, the Americans were involved in Iraq, and so the British went along with them. The United Kingdom, you know, likes to be the colony of its own colonies. It's a very peculiar thing. Today, just to tell you, I'm quickly jumping from 2003 to today, to 2025. To give you an example, there are people who are suing the Tata Group, which is an Indian group, in British courts, because they said that it carried out ethnic cleansing in companies acquired in the United Kingdom. So we have Indian groups buying British companies. By the way, Jaguar, the Jaguar brand, was bought by the Indians. The Tetley brand, which is an important British tea, was bought by the Indians. The steel mills were sold to the Indians and the Chinese, who, by the way, decided to close them. The United Kingdom will be the first G7 country that can no longer produce steel. It's over. The era of steel is finished. We won't be able to produce steel anymore. We'll have to buy it from abroad at market prices. It's over. We can't make it anymore because we've sold off all the family silver. We keep selling. We sell non-stop. That's how it is. So as I was saying, back to this Iraq story, the United Kingdom is getting involved with the United States. It's not in our interest at all. It's not in the country's interest at all. There's absolutely nothing to gain. There's absolutely nothing to do there. But because the former colony is gone, we have to go along like the poodle of our former colonies. So the military is deployed. That's it. And then after a few years, they come back. And then we get to the middle of the 2010s. What happens? The soldiers are generally very poorly paid. You should know they aren't wealthy in this country and get minimum wage, right? They begin getting threatening letters from the London law firm. The law firm writes letters to them saying, we have testimony from Iraq. Mr. So-and-so, who lives in Fallujah, who lives I don't know where, who lives in such and such village, said that on that day you were there and you mistreated him, you pushed him around, you said things to him, etc. And today, this amounts to a violation of his human rights. He is filing a complaint against you, personally, by name. What happened? What happened is that some firms, I mentioned one in the book, but there are several that did this. Some law firms recruited recruiters in Iraq. They told them, find us, do whatever you can. Find us people who want to testify against British soldiers. So the recruiters went to Iraq, traveled through the villages, all of that. They found people, they told them, listen, you don't care, you'll just get money, just sign, that's it. They signed. The lawyer was able to get the soldiers' contact information. How did he get them? Probably the army gave it to him. Probably from inside the army, he was able to get the deployment dates and the names and private addresses of the people who were there. So they went to terrorize them with these letters. The army abandoned the soldiers, didn't want to defend them. The Iraqis were defended by the British state. That means the lawyer was paid by the British state, right? He had covered the legal fees for those Iraqis. They could file a complaint against the soldiers back home. You see what I mean? Tomorrow there could be a war against I don't know who. For example, the United Kingdom would like to go to war against Russia. I can tell you nobody will go die for this country. I assure you nobody. People won't move. They'll mind their own business. They'll say it doesn't matter if you're Russian, Belarusian, Ukrainian, Brazilian, or from anywhere else. Here are the cities and villages. We'll just take our bags and leave. I assure you it's come to that point. So then we actually discover that all of this was completely fabricated. All of it was a lie. It means that in reality, the lawyer had paid the recruiters who then paid people to pretend to be victims. It means that all these accusations were completely made up from start to finish. It was a violation of every code of ethics, a violation of the law, a violation of everything you can think of. None of it held up. They were completely unfounded accusations by people who were paid, right, to make them in order to file complaints and get compensation from British soldiers, forcing them to sell their belongings, forcing them to sell their house, all of that, attacking them to take their property. And of course, the lawyer acting on behalf of the Iraqi victims would have taken a cut, right? He tells the Iraqi victims, sign here, 90% is for me because I'm representing you, 10% for you. So if I manage to push the soldiers to sell the roof over their heads, sell their car, whatever, we rake in the jackpot. Much of the legal fees are paid by the state, while the rest comes from what they can get from the victim. The victim, so the British soldier, right? All of this backed by the British state, okay? So in the end, the case collapsed, of course, because there was a scandal, because the media talked about it, so they had to take action. The lawyer was only given a suspended sentence, so he won't go to prison. And he didn't pay because he couldn't compensate the victims, because he had arranged to transfer all his assets and everything like that. He moved them into foreign trusts, holding companies and more. He said, me, I have nothing. I don't have a penny. Come to my house. If there's anything to take, you can take it. All right? You see the level of betrayal. And it's not just one case or two or three or four or 12 or 100 or 500. It's an everyday thing, every single day. It means that at some point it's high time to realize that there is in fact a war that has been declared. That's how it is. There is a war that has been declared precisely with the goal of ruining the Westerners, with the goal of destroying them, with the goal of destroying, as I was saying, their families, their industry, their country, their cultural fabric, practically everything. It's a war that is multidimensional, 360 degrees in 3D, so it's literally a sphere. It's like an enemy that literally surrounds them on the surface of a sphere. From every angle, none is left uncovered. That's why I wrote this book, The Great Betrayals. You can find it on Amazon. These stories I talked about, some are in it, some aren't. The story about the military seems much more detailed. And perhaps the one I found most poignant was the one about the victims of Telford. I talk about the victims of Telford. I give you real reasons why they were ignored. But you'll have to follow the narrative to understand. I'm putting you in that mindset and setting the scene. And once you really get into the mood, at that point, when I give you the reason why they were ignored, you'll have guessed it already. All right? It becomes natural. Thank you, my friends, for watching this video this far, and I'll see you in the next one. See you very soon.